Good afternoon, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Google+. This is Rich again, back for your second video blog of the day for Friday, April 15th, 2016, around 4:20 in the afternoon, Belleville, Massachusetts. Sunny day out today. Average temperatures. Tomorrow's going to be the same thing. And Sunday and Monday could be perfect weather. Top 10 days. Clear, calm, and cool. Which is pretty good for springtime. We need this weather. The next days afterwards for 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, going to be chilly, but the end of next week another warm up is expected. Some news to report. Former Major League Baseball manager Jim Leyland has been named the manager of the Team USA for the World Baseball Classic, which will take place in 2017. And more Stanley Cup playoff action tonight on NBC, SN, CNBC, and the NHL Network. And that's about it on news. My second video blog subject of the day is about the Star Trek franchise. The Star Trek franchise has been one of the most successful science fiction TV and movie franchises of all time, and this year celebrates 50 years of Star Trek. Star Trek was a science fiction series. The original one lasted 3 years on NBC, and it wasn't highly rated, but it turned out to be a phenomenon in reruns and conventions and movies and other stuff, and had spin-offs of lots of other television shows of the Star Trek name. Star Trek was developed by Gene Roddenberry back in the mid-1960s. He wanted to create a television science fiction series which was kind of wagon trains to the stars, and this was kind of an adult. He wanted it to be themed more to adults, because many science fiction series back in the 50s and 60s were kind of focused on the kids, but he wanted it to be more focused on the adults on television. And he got a concept, and he shot a pilot in 1965, Star Trek, starring Jeffrey Hunter as Captain Pike and Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Spock, a Vulcan from the planet Vulcan that was fictionist. And they shot the pilot for NBC. It was produced by Desilu Productions, which was a movie and TV production company owned by Desi Arnaz Sr. and Lucille Ball. And when they shot the pilot, they sent it to NBC. NBC did not like the pilot at all, but Gene Roddenberry wanted Star Trek so bad to be on the air, so he shot a second pilot with William Shatner as Captain James T. Kirk, and Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Spock, and DeForest Kelley as Dr. Leonard McCoy Bones. And NBC liked the pilot, and they picked it up, and on September 8th, 1966, Star Trek made its debut on NBC. It also starred James Doohan as Montgomery Scott, and Nichelle Nichols as Lieutenant Uhura, and George Takei as Mr. Sulu, and Walter Koenig as Chekhov. And Star Trek's episodes were very, very good. Some of it was a spaceship battling Klingons and other aliens, and they had some classic episodes like with Trouble with Tribbles, and there was one where missing Spock's brain, and another one when Spock attacks the captain, James T. Kirk, and the captain's dead. And also there was one, The City on Forever Edge, which was a classic one on the first season when the crew of the Starship Enterprise went back to 1930, and James T. Kirk fell in love with a lady named Edith Keeler, who was played by Joan Collins, and like Spock said that she must be killed because if she lived, then the world would change, because they said Germany would win World War II. So, she was killed by hitting the car. That was one of the most classic episodes of Star Trek. And also there was The Wrath of Khan. And also they had the first interracial kiss on television when James D. Kirk kissed Laura. But the ratings of Star Trek were not very great, and it only lasted 3 seasons. It actually was almost going to be cancelled at the end of the second season, but a campaign by fans. They wrote to NBC. They wanted to save Star Trek, and Star Trek was renewed for a 3rd season, but it was given the death slot in Friday nights, and it got cancelled. Halfway through the Star Trek run, Desilu Productions was bought by Paramount, and Paramount took over the productions. Star Trek ended in the summer of 1969, but it was immediately put into first run syndication, the reruns, all over the United States, including WLVI TV 56 in Boston, WPIX, Channel 11 in New York, also in Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, and other cities. And the reruns of Star Trek were pretty amazing. And in 1972, Star Trek convention started off in New York City. They got some actors to appear. Eventually they got the major stars like DeForest Kelley, William Shatner, and Leonard Nimoy to appear at these conventions all across the United States and Canada. In 1973, there was a Saturday morning cartoon of Star Trek, which lasted 2 years on NBC, and they had the voices of Leonard Nimoy, William Shatner, DeForest Kelley, and all the stars of Star Trek. And in 1975, Gene Roddenberry proposed a new Star Trek series for a new television network, which was going to form the Paramount Television Service. And it was called Star Trek Phase 2. They were going to get all the original cast to star in it, but the Paramount Television Service network did not launch, so Star Trek Phase 2 was aborted. In 1977, Star Wars, the movie, made millions and millions of dollars. Also, Close Encounters of a Third Kind made millions and millions of dollars. And Gene Roddenberry saw the success of these 2 science fiction movies, and he says Star Trek could be a movie franchise. In 1979, Star Trek the Motion Picture debuted in movie theaters across the country, and it was the 3rd highest grossing movie in 1979. The original cast was involved in it, and it was kind of panned by the critics. But in 1982, a second Star Trek movie was commissioned, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. They had Ricardo Montalban play Khan, which he did in the 1967 movie. And this also had a Vulcan, another Vulcan, played by Kirstie Alley. This was her first major role in a movie or television series. She eventually became a star, and Captain James T. Kirk became Admiral. And they also had the original cast was at Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. That was a big box office hit. And also they had Star Trek 3, which was directed by Leonard Nimoy, The Search for Spock, as the original cast, went to search for Spock. Also, Christopher Lloyd was in it as a Klingon. And around this time, Star Trek started to have novels, fictionist novels, which became bestsellers. Also, there was a Star Trek magazine, and also the Star Trek conventions would continually grow and grow and grow. A fourth Star Trek movie, Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, which the cast returned to Earth in San Francisco and to save whales, and it had a little bit of a comic relief to it, and was the highest grossing Star Trek film with the original cast to date. And Leonard Nimoy also directed that as well. And also around this time, Gene Roddenberry, the Star Trek's creator, wanted a new Star Trek series with a new cast. And in 1987, Star Trek: The Next Generation, starring Patrick Stewart and as Captain Jean-Luc Picard, and also others including Brent Spiner and Jonathan Frakes and Michael Dorn and Brett Spiner and Will Wheaton, among others. Like, they had the Starship Enterprise was in first-run syndication, and this Star Trek lasted 7 years, and it was one of the most highly popular popular syndicated programs of all time. And it was seen in Boston on CVV Channel 5 and WQTV 68. And the original cast of Star Trek had two more movies. 1989, which William Shatner directed, Star Trek V: The Final Frontier, which was a flop at the box office. It was turning to be a little bit of a funny, like more humor. And Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered One. It was another flop, and that was then when William Shatner said he was not going to do any more Star Trek movies with the original cast. Also, 1991 was the year that Star Trek's creator, Gene Roddenberry, passed away. In 1992, another Star Trek television series was commissioned. It was Star Trek Deep Space Nine, starring Avery Brooks, and this Star Trek was filmed on a spaceship, and it lasted 7 seasons in syndication. And the original, the Next Generation series ended in 1994. 1994 was the first movie of the Star Trek: The Next Generation crew, called Star Trek Generations, which they had Patrick Stewart and the cast of the Next Generation on it. Plus, they had William Shatner and William Shatner as Kirk, and Leonard and DeForest Kelley as Bones, Leonard McCoy, and Chekhov, played by Walter Koenig, as in this movie, making a brief appearance. The last time any of the original cast members were in a Star Trek movie into the rebooted franchise. And Star Trek Generation was a decent hit, and the Next Generation had 3 more movies, but those movies were not as good as this one. Also in 1995, UPN had a Star Trek series called Star Trek Voyager, starring Kate Mulgrew as the first female captain of Starship Enterprise, and this Star Trek lasted 7 seasons on UPN. It's also famous for Jerry Ryan as 7 of 9, like a alien character, which was so popular. And 2001, Star Trek Enterprise, starring Scott Bakula, lasted on UPN and was a decent hit, but production costs were so high. It was canceled in 2005 despite decent ratings on the UPN network, and there was rumors about a season 5 going on Sci-Fi Network, but it needed at least $30 million for a 5th season, and there were fans even pledging money for it, but it did not get off the ground. And the Star Trek franchise was in disarray during this time period, because there was not going to be any more Next Generation movies. The original cast was never going to do another one because some of the cast members were passing away, and Star Trek looked like it was going to go by the wayside. But in the late 2000s, J.J. Abrams decided to reboot the franchise. In 2009, they had a rebooted Star Trek film just called Star Trek, and it starred Chris Pine as Captain James T. Kirk. Most of the rebooted Star Trek movie was kind of a prequel of Star Trek, having like Spock and Dr. Leonard McCoy Bones and Lula and Sulu and Chekhov and Scotty, played by different actors in it, getting the Starfleet training. And it also had a cameo appearance by Leonard Nimoy as Spock. And the Star Trek movie franchise was a big hit. It was rebooted, and it was another Star Trek movie in 2013, Into the Darkness, was a pretty good hit, and it was the last movie role that Leonard Nimoy played in Spock as a cameo before he passed away. A third Star Trek movie is coming in 2016 soon, and also CBS All Access is going to develop a new Star Trek series just to be shown on the digital side online, but the pilot episode is going to be on CBS in 2017. And Star Trek continues to make millions and millions of dollars in books, DVDs, merchandise, reruns, and other forms of media. And it's probably maybe the most successful TV series franchise of all time that came from basically being canceled after 3 seasons on the original run, and with the reruns, kind of saving it from being rerun over and eventually going away. There's a lot of people who love Star Trek. Famous quotes: "Beam me up, Scotty," or "That's highly illogical," or "Live long and prosper." All the actors of the original Star Trek, William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and George Takei, became real popular when they real popular through Star Trek. Some of these roles for the other actors were kind of typecast, and that's not really good. But several of them made their living off of those characters, and Star Trek's probably one of those famous television series that will never go out in style. I think there's going to be many more Star Trek movies, many more Star Trek TV series, and more Star Trek novels, and it's the best. And that's about it on Star Trek. And I'll be back with the third and final Super of the Night, which will be about Pro Hockey Hall of Famer Peter Forsberg. Keep calm, everybody. I'm a Julie Brennan guy. Molly Rosenblatt of WCCO rocks and has nice legs. Elizabeth Hutt's so stunning. She's the best. Amy Swensey rocks. Papa Gibbs of ABSC 11 has a sweet southern accent. Linda Church is the best, and she's got nice legs. And in the words of Dee Patel last week, no boss by now.